I wanted to see if you thought that this thing was on. You know how the live button will come? And we are live. Welcome to the Chicken Box, everybody. It is Thursday, another beautiful day. Have you smiled today? Get that chicken box out my screen. No, I'm just kidding. That chicken box just popped up. If you've never been on the show before, uh, the term originated in Baltimore. You know what? Don't quote me on that. But the chicken box is a popular dish in Baltimore. Four wings, fries, salt, pepper, ketchup, and it's good. It might be lunchtime and you might not have eaten. So let's not get all the way into the food. But it's been chicken box is powered by the Afro American newspaper, Maryland's, Virginia's, and a whole bunch of other states' oldest black business, 130 years. We've been informing, inspiring, and educating. Please go to afro.com. Oh man, we got a producer. The producer is on it. She must be in my head today. Go to afro.com and check us out. We are still going. We have a wonderful show. Oh, I didn't even say hello. I'm impeccable. Your co-host, along with Courtney Alexander. Courtney, how are you? Looks like you're traveling today somewhere.
I wish, but not at the moment. I'm grateful and just blessed to be here. It's sunny and we're going to have 70-degree weather next week. So I'm excited for that.
Chicago, 70 degrees. Everybody should be excited about 70 degrees anywhere. This week, we're talking about Black people versus authenticity, your true self. Everybody wants to be authentic. Or, I guess, are we meeting your representative? I don't know. Are you authentically you all the time? And I'm not an authentic expert, but we're going to have an authentic expert come and join us today as our special guest. Courtney, do you want to introduce our special guest? And then we're going to get right into it because everybody has been around some phonies, and sometimes you being a phony to yourself. We're going to get into phony and authentic and a whole bunch of fake and false. We're going to have a conversation about it today because I know some phony people. I grew up with them. Go ahead.
Today, joining us, we have Norma Hollis. During her 30 years of research into human nature, Norma discovered that as people lost their authenticity, they can replace it with fake masks and live with an unfulfilling and unhappy life. When you cast away your natural gifts and talents, you inevitably lose that very spark that makes you unique and that gives you a reason to enjoy life to the fullest. In the long run, when you follow society's direction, there is a good likelihood that you will end up lost with little inspiration to keep going. That is something that Norma wants to prevent. To help others increase their awareness and break away from the unfulfillment of their lives, Norma created the Authenticity Grid, which is the foundation for multiple programs she has created for human development. Norma now offers coaching, training, speaking, and certification programs that guide individuals and organizations to authenticity.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Chicken Box for the very first time. Norma Hollis, I need some. I need some sound effects. Aaron, let's get some sound effects in that back off so that we can officially welcome them and give you a warm chicken box welcome. How are you, Norma? You authentically laughing. That's good.
Well, you're making me laugh authentically. What can I say? It's good to be here with you. Thanks for having me. Hey, Kurt.
Uh, we see this grid. Let's just get right into it. Let's get started, Norma. What is authenticity? Because it's a lot of phonies out there. Let's get right to it, y'all.
There are a lot of phonies. My simple definition of authenticity is fulfilling the purpose for which you were made. So, taking your gifts and talents and using them in such a way in the world that it is reflecting who you were supposed to be. I have this belief that God is in charge and that He made us in such a way that if we just do what He asks us to do, we'll have a better world. But society seems to push us in a different direction. And we get lost so very early in life, earlier and earlier as the generations go on. So authenticity means really stepping into the true you and living your life based on the gifts you were given.
Based on the gifts you were given. We're cooking up something good today. We're a generational show. I represent the Gen X. Dr. Draper.
Hey, Norma. Thank you for joining us. I am a Gen Z / millennial boomer. That's my authentic self. So glad to have you with us on today, and I can't wait to talk about what you do because so many people are talking about this imposter syndrome. So I'm sure that that's so contrary to authenticity. So welcome to the Chicken Box. Glad
Thank
to
you very much.
And Impeccable, we do have I think we did have a Chicken Box sound effect somewhere.
Yeah, you know, these platforms, they give you all kind of things. We just got to figure out how to upload them and program. If you're just tuning in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and maybe what authenticity. That's not a word we use. I go think every day. I don't think everybody wakes up and even says that once a month. I mean, except you, Norma. How many times are you saying this authenticity a week or a day, probably?
That's a good question. I'm gonna challenge myself to actually check that one day. But it's definitely, I don't think I go through a single day without saying the word, or at least using it in something that I do, because that's just part of my life.
So what was so important about creating a grid? And what, and people have seen grids and they've probably made some grids in school, but what does a grid really help us do with this authenticity mission?
Well, this grid helps you understand yourself. And let me give you my intergenerational story about it, because it started when I was 28 years old. And when I was 28, I had realized I had done everything my parents had said to do. I had a husband, good job, house, cars, money in the bank, all the wonderful things. And I was miserable. And I realized I had become my parents' version of who they thought I should be. And that's when I decided just to step out of the world a bit and figure out, who am I? And that started the journey. And so the first thing that I did was, I know that one of my gifts is the ability to go inside in a deeper way than most people. So in so doing, I was able to decipher that I felt 9 different energies within me. And I gave each of the energies the name of an animal that related, like my intuition in that box was an owl. And so once I got all the energies done and the animal's name, I also did some astrological history and just a lot of research and from a lot of different angles, psychological, and put together a grid that I understand myself as. And over the 30-year period of research, the grid of myself morphed into the grid you see behind me. So what I learned at 28 and then spent years understanding is that we each have an inner voice that no one hears but us, okay? We each have an outer voice, and the outer voice is how you're perceived by other people. You walk in the room, people make an impression about who you are. They know nothing about what's really going on. They make an assumption. And then you have an expressive voice, which is who you become and how you live your life on a day-to-day basis. So that's how this grid came about. And over a 30-year period, I was kind of led to have experiences that took me deeper into each dimension. And I was downloaded information. I was guided to read and research certain things. And that turned into the Authenticity Grid. From that point, I finished it and I wrote a book on each of the dimensions to go deeper, so that enables people to go deeper. I've been doing some research. I'm just cleaning out lately, and I've seen the iterations and how I've started in one way and we did something else, and just over the years how it progressed. And so now what I do is I have an online school. I certify coaches, speakers, teachers, facilitators, trainers to teach the work as a coach to individuals or as a trainer. We're just getting ready to go into corporate America, because with corporate dealing with the problem of 4.5 million people leaving jobs every month and the lack of engagement, a little more than 30% of people are engaged at work, and it's getting worse post-COVID. So the authenticity helps to build engagement. And we're actually recruiting people now to be our trainers. We're really in a really fast growth spurt right now, which is really, really exciting. And taking it into corporate to help them. So we do it for individuals. I've spent most of my time and my career working with individuals and helping them connect with their authentic self. We all go through transitions in life. when you understand the grid and use it and become more authentic and integrate the 9 dimensions within yourself, you're more balanced. You have more courage. You have more clarity about what your purpose is, the purpose for which you were made. I could go on and on. So let me just pause and let you guys ask questions. Because what y'all
we were taking it in. I was getting excited over here. You just tuned in. This is Black People versus Authenticity. Look it up. Well, you don't have to look it up.
Well, we lose our authenticity so early in life. My degree is in early childhood, child and family life sciences, when it was one of the first areas of education. And so people didn't know a lot. They hadn't studied preschoolers a lot. So now what they're doing in the preschool area is, once they learned that violence, that what you see creates what you do, they've started put violence in the cartoons for kids, which is why we have the situation we're dealing with now. It's so prevalent. But along with that, children lose their authenticity when parents rush them to learn to read early, as if that's the secret to life. It's not. It doesn't matter. Research said back when I was in school, and it hasn't changed, that it doesn't matter. You'll catch up when it's time. What the first 5 years are really for is to create your character, to build who you are, to look at your spirit, to look at what God gave you. So your parents can decipher, oh, this is who my child, this is the gifts my child has. This is who my child is supposed to be. This is who God made the child to be. How can I help this child be the way that God made them? But instead, because we're so encumbered with needing to work and et cetera, kids go to preschool and their gifts are exposed. They realize they can sing or they can play the drums and people like it, and they talk a lot, and they get home and they do that. And the parent says, you're making too much noise. Go watch TV. You're still there. Why should I be authentic? It's not being appreciated. In fact, it makes me feel bad. And so that begins the process. Then they see the guns on TV, on and on and on and on. And it's so, systematic. So this is designed to help reverse that. So if the millennials, for example, and the Gen Zs and Gen Xs can become more authentic themselves and help their organizations become more authentic, and then raise their children to their authenticity, then that's how we create a better world. We can't be Black versus authenticity if we're going to try to do the same thing that they're doing. So trying to do it through the money will never catch up with them. They've had a head start and they change the game every time we turn around. But God gives us what we need to turn it around. But we just lost sight of how to do that, and coming together and everybody and trying to be the Indian chief rather than a member of the team. I mean, the team is not ours. We're just servants to the architect of the teams.
All right now.
Yeah. So our job, to my mind, is to find the people who you resonate with. And if we collectively examine what our voices are telling us, we can probably figure out some answers for our communities and for what we're doing. But we all say, well, my voice is this, my voice, whatever. But authenticity is about bringing us together. There's a guy named Michael Drew who wrote a book called Pendulum. He did research for 3,000 years on human nature. And he says that we have a pendulum shift every 40 years. As a society, we spend 40 years talking about we and how great and how much we can do collectively. And then we spend 40 years talking about me. No, it's me. I can do it. I can do it. And this year, 2023, is the very midpoint of the 40 years that we're on we. And when I had heard him speak about it, when he said we, he talked about authenticity. So we're right smack dab in the middle of the societies focused on authenticity at a time when it's clear how important it is, given how COVID slowed us down to see things and how we're getting more clarity about what we're really dealing with. And we're recognizing that, and you got AI coming in, which is going to take away authenticity also. And you have social media, which strips children in many ways of their authenticity. Instead, they're trying to be something that they're not for whatever false reason that you don't really understand till you get over 50 or so and you live enough life to realize what a bunch of bullcrap that is. That's the value of the baby boomers. So listen to them when they tell you this, because it's a bunch of crap. So anyway.
Hey, if you just jumped in this conversation, it's Black People versus Authenticity. We have the authenticity guru with the authenticity grid, Norma Hollis, joining us today, and she is speaking some life. If you have not shared this stream, share it, because it is going to help someone. So I like how you started out and said you how a parent sometimes will put what they didn't do or what they think you should do on the child, and they put it on so heavy that the child takes on trying to please or trying to fulfill that particular push from the child, I mean from the parent, instead of speak a little bit on that, and then we'll get into let's start with the inner. Let's break down the inner a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's really important for parents to really get to know their children, and they show you who they are when they're very young. I always recommend between 2 and 4 that you record as much as you can of what they say, because at 2, when they start to learn how to speak, they try to tell you what they remember of before they came. Okay, so if we talk about having purpose, that means you got it from somewhere. So I happen to be one who remembers getting mine. So that's a rare thing, but I have memories and that have been validated in a number of ways. But you're given your assignment and you're given your purpose. And you talk about it when you talk about terrible twos, children are frustrated, but they're frustrated because they can't tell you what they want to tell you. They got it in their mind, but they don't have the words yet to share with you. And that's very frustrating. And then by the time that they're 4, they start to really learn how to read. So the children are born with the right brain being the most dominant. They see in pictures, they learn in pictures, and everything in the left and the right brain it comes to you as a gift. That's where your music comes from. That's where art comes from. That's where athletics, with the different ideas. That's where ideas come from. And it's not till you get to the left brain till it develops enough, which is around 4, that you learn how to read and you learn numbers. If you think about the things on earth that you need to survive, you have to learn them. Okay. And that's the way society is structured to help you. They want you to learn what they want to teach you. They're more linear way of life, like reading. You're not born to read because you have to learn the words. You have to learn the letters, the alphabet, how it's structured, and all that stuff. Same thing with numbers. You're not born with numbers. You have to learn the numbers, how they add, how they're formed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it seems to me that that's the expressive voice over here, which is the voice of your creativity. That's the real voice of that 0.01% that makes us different. Because as humans, we're alike 99.9%. It's only that 0.101% that makes us different. And that's a lot over here. And in my view, this is what they seem to seek to strip from us, our creativity. As a baby boomer back in our days, when you went to school, you had music, you had art, you had home economics, you had all the things that help you survive in life, that expand your creativity. And one by one, they stripped them up there. We had even prayer in school. They stripped that. They took that out also. So all the things.
I remember I learned how to make a cupcake or something back in home economics. I said, learn how to I think they had washing machines in the classroom and all kind of things.
But how do you live? I remember when I graduated, one of the things that I never learned is how to make a resume. In all of school, high school, all 4 years of college, and the first guy sent a resume. He hired me. He said, that was an awful resume, but nobody taught me how to do it or how to do. So there are practical things that we don't teach. We talk about the practicality of reading and writing and how important that is, but the creative stuff is very important as also. And then for those of you who are the younger generations, it's important to know that, well, first of all, no one knows the future, okay? It is predicted in many ways. So for example, none of our parents or grandparents knew that we could do this on a box and talk all around the world. Who knew? So who knows what the young children of the future would be dealing with, which is why no parent can really guide them. Only their gifts and talents can guide them to that. And so that's why it's important to take that direction. One thing that they do predict, though, is that with artificial intelligence coming in as strongly as it is, there's a guy, that Rudolf Steiner, who's written about, he thinks that the highest area of history of the intellect was between the 15th to 19th century. And that therefore where we are now, especially with AI coming in, we've exhausted the intelligence. And therefore the new frontier is consciousness. I learned recently that there was a meeting with AT&T executives some 20 or 30 years ago, having a conversation about how do we monetize the future of communication since it's going to be telepathic. That's where we're going. So I say that to say that the creativity that a child shows you when they're young, the creativity that most people end up masking and setting aside to make an income, it's gonna be more and more important as time goes on, because people are going to be so many robotic, and they're going to be people that are half robot, half human. There's all kind of stuff going on. And I do a lot of research, and stuff just comes to me. So, in the areas of authenticity. And so this is what I'm hearing and have read from multiple different angles and multiple different authors. And they're saying pretty much the same thing. So this is what my conclusion is, why authenticity is so important, and why the expressive voice and listening to your inner voice. We live in a 3-dimensional world. So I don't know if you know about dimensions. We're transitioning as a whole to a 5-dimensional world. So which means that like 4-dimension, we're 3 and 4-dimensional world. 3-dimension is what you can see and touch and hear right here on Earth. 4-dimension is you believe in heaven. Okay. You don't know what it is, but you believe in it. And 5th dimension is beyond that. And there are actually 13 dimensions. And there's so much that the world knows. They're burning books now. How many books have they burned in the past? Okay. Because there's knowledge like this that's available on the planet, but not available to regular people. Just like the whole issue of aliens, there's just so much. There's so much. So, and I researched that stuff, and it comes to me, and I'm sharing it to you, hopefully in bites that you can take with that part that makes sense, but also just remember to be your authentic self and help your kids do that. Because that's how if we just align with the plan that's out there, we'll change it all. But we want to make our own plans, but that's my story.
Absolutely. You expanding our minds here on the Chicken Box. This is Black People versus Authenticity. I heard you talk about the younger people, and the Afro has multi-generations. Like I said, Courtney, as you think about what Norma Hollis is talking about, and she said how it applied on social media, that when you look in about 50 years, it's going to be a bunch of, that was worthless of the likes and the authenticity. What are you finding out there? Because you do a lot of digital posting, and you're out there in that world strongly. Or a question that you wanted to just authentically ask.
From what I've noticed, I think that people do need to be more authentic on social media. I feel like a lot of people create content that's catered toward like gaining like clout, or just gaining attention. So people will do things that they normally wouldn't do just to like gain a new audience, or just get those likes. So it's unfortunate that people don't remain true to themselves because they want validation from like society. So it's unfortunate to see, and I hope as time goes on and as people grow, they will eventually like find themselves and know that like social media is a false sense of reality. It's like a false perception of who we should be and like what we should be doing. So it's unfortunate.
And when you add to that the metaverse, you don't have to do anything except go into your goggles and just live your world, live your whole life there. So imagine that.
We're doing a lot of imagining today, Dr. Gerber. I'm trying to think about what was happening when I was 2. I'm like, let me get back to 2 real quick.
So many thoughts come to mind. I think about the Montessori method of education that said a long time ago, let kids be kids, stop grading them and putting them in a box. I think about my grandson, Ryan, who heard music in his head his whole life. And then when he would tap in school, they would stop and say, you're not paying attention, Ryan. You're not, you need to do this. And he was hearing at a young age lyrics and music. And now he's in a music production, in college for that. But that started when he was 2. But he's blessed that his parents let him go. Think about how many times we try to stop kids. They're not terrible 2s. They're the terrific 2s. And they are into so much because they've got these things going on inside of them. They just haven't quite figured out how to put the letters and the sounds together so that you know
Right.
what they're saying. So they cry in frustration. And we do the same thing, by the way. It's not just 2-year-olds.
That's
We
true.
cry in frustration a whole different kind of way. So Norma, I really am in awe of all of the work that you're doing and how aligned it is with the Bible.
Oh, thank you for saying that. So
It's so much alignment, whether it's your dimensions, because the Bible talks about different dimensions of heaven, or whether it's how how the stars align. The Bible talks about how all of that's aligned, but more importantly, how each of us has these gifts from the beginning. And so many people go to their grave and never have that gift, pushed to its fullest. Help me, Norma, understand, what would you say to teachers, parents? I mean, let's say you have a child that's in your pre-K class, and you have a particular way that the system is holding you responsible to teach. You're not in a Montessori setting. What would you say to teachers? What would your advice be to them?
Well, the challenge with teachers, from what I understand, is that they are required to follow a certain curriculum. Okay. And so that is a big challenge. What's interesting, I ran into my godson yesterday. I haven't seen him for years, and he's a former principal and is now coaching and consulting principals. And so I said to him, we have to talk, because that's a second confirmation for me that that's an ideal way to get to the schools. I've been trying to get to the schools, and it's very, very difficult. But to the teachers, so your question is right on the topic that I just started thinking about yesterday. But actually, I would tell them, a lot of it has to do with listening, and listening beyond the words. Okay. What I believe is there's 3 kinds of listening: listening to yourself, listening to others, and listening to the universe. Okay, so that's what I would tell teachers to do, to listen more. Listen to when whatever they tell themselves, that this is not right, this is not, or I can do this differently, or this child needs something different. And along with that, I would say create the best rapport possible with the parents, so that you can share with the parents. Teachers have a vision of multiple children. So a parent only sees their child or a few children, but the teacher has a broader perspective, so they can understand the trends. Look at the trends. Look at the patterns. All of our lives, individual lives, have patterns, and then generations have patterns. And I would imagine that classes have patterns. So for the teacher's own personal growth, to be able to assist more, look at the patterns that occur in her classrooms over the years, over this different semesters. Okay. As it relates to the classroom that they're in, look at the patterns of that class, and to the best degree possible, the patterns that certain children exhibit. So there are certain patterns that are red flags, to certain potential, the older you get, the more you can predict what's going to happen. Okay. You have no prediction of that when you're very, very young, because you just haven't lived long enough. But a teacher who has, and the prediction comes from being able, the older you get, you've had more experience with the patterns. So it's just a matter of looking at life and looking at experiences through the patterns that show up. I find that the universe speaks in patterns. You'll see when I teach people to be authentic or what they're speaking, I have them look at the patterns of their life. If you look at your life over the course of the decades that you've been around, you probably see some patterns have shown up. I can, talk about patterns that led me to authenticity. I didn't know that's what it was, but as I look back at my life, way back from 2 years old and 8 years old, I can point out certain times in my life, and I can see how I got to where I am and how I was led to be where I am. I allowed myself to be led. So, and so that's the third part for a teacher, to listen to what her inner voice tells her about guiding her. Because if the teacher's purpose, she believes, is to make a difference in the lives of children, then that requires a belief that you'll be guided on how to do that. And you're guided through your inner voice. So you have to listen to it.
Absolutely. Y'all hear that out there, teachers and parents who are really teachers? So a lot goes on. Of I like what's the outer that we were talking about, and a person outer will be projected on them by somebody else, and like for instance, someone will say what they only think that you can do, and then they will project that onto you to say, "Oh, I only thought you were a painter," or "Oh, I only thought you did X, Y, Z." But you begin to listen to those voices, but in your mind, you're probably saying, "No, I'm this." You know what I mean? But then the person will try to speak, "No, you're that," because that's what I see outside of you. So is that a change of just don't hang around these people and listen to them no more, or is that a authenticity problem, or has your inner not come out enough?
Okay, give me 1 minute, please. And I want to talk about ROA. I'm doing it. I have to coach host. I'm a coach host for this organization, and
Okay,
they asked me to host for Marshall Goldsmith, who is a
okay,
very popular coach. So I just need to, I don't know if it's 9:30 or 9:45, so I just need to get on there. So just give me a minute.
you got it. So if you just tuned in, this is Black People versus Authenticity. We're talking to Norma Hollis. We have the authenticity grid up. Can you pull the grid up one more time, Taryn? We got the inner voice, the outer voice, the expressive voice. And what I noticed about this grid, I don't know if anybody else is paying attention, all the inner voices have I words, all the outer voices have N words, and all of the expressive voice have L words. So the INL, what I mean? I'm looking at the grid. This is my brain computing it. I don't know who else is computing it, but take a screenshot of this. You know, uh, do whatever you need to do, put it on pause, write it down, download it, look for it. But I think this can be a very, very helpful tool into, a lot of people are still looking for their purpose. They don't know what it is that they are purposed to do. And they're just wandering around lost, wasting some time. And I guess when you become authentically true to who you are, you back, Norma? You ready?
Yeah, I'm back. Uh-huh.
I was stalling like a mug. I was just trying
Well,
to.
you did it.
You're doing a good job, impeccable. I think also this grid is showing. It's a guide. I don't know that people, and Norma can answer this, do it on their own. It looks as if it's that Norma's work to help guide people through this and train people how to guide themselves, and you know, or maybe others in this as well. So Norma, you use this to help guide people to find their authentic selves or authentic voice.
I do. Let me give you two addresses that you can go to. I want to go. One is, and I know Taryn can put these up. One is giftfromnorma.com. One gift, GIFT from norma.com. And on that site, you get an invitation to participate in our Tuesday calls. And every Tuesday at 5 o'clock Pacific time, I have a different speaker, and we talk for 4 weeks about each of the dimensions of authenticity. And it's called Authentic Life Networking Circles because we're teaching you authenticity. And then we're also giving you a thought-provoking question to go into a small room to have conversations. When people talk a lot about marketing and sales on all their networking events, but what we're talking about is reflection. People don't take enough time to reflect. They're so busy doing, and then doing it again tomorrow. And the habit of taking time to reflect on how your life is going, what the experiences are, how your energy is going, just all of those multiple things is what we talk about. So Gift from Norma will get you there. And then the other address is authenticityassessment.com. Authenticityassessment.com. Now, I think we've been redoing that. I think it's done. If it's not, just come back in another week or so and it will be done. But it is an assessment that asks you 9 questions, one in each of the dimensions of authenticity. And then it gives you results. And we're starting a membership program very soon to be able to teach people about the grid in an affordable way. What I have been doing is mainly using this in my coaching programs. And right now, primarily, what I'm doing is teaching others. I'm creating a core team of coaches and trainers who we can send to corporate environments to teach this in the corporate arena. And along with that, we're also going to, maybe, okay, that's fine. That one's fine. We'll take you to it, but it's not going to go to authenticity. Try authenticity assessment 01. I don't know. I'm confused. Just leave it there. They'll fix it. But I don't know if it'll get you where I want it to go, but it will get you in my system.
Well, it's gonna get you to learning something. We
Yes.
understand that you are a busy woman. And listen, go to afrotix.com for free. Now, this is something that our wonderful sponsors in the Afro American newspaper has put on. Their third annual Black Business Matters conference is coming up, and Norma is one of our speakers. And so you can get a chance to glean in on some more information, and you can just take some more time to reflect. That's right. Matter of fact, we have our own ticket platform. Forget the one that starts with an E. I'm not even going to give them no play because they're not advertising with the Black. Here's the thing, y'all. We put all our money into things that don't even care about our community. And we call it the quote unquote Bible or whatever. I'm talking about Louis Vuitton. All these things that you think are things. And when we had to start somewhere. Afro said, you know what? We're going to start our own ticketing platform. So we have afrotix.com. You can put your events on there for free, y'all. And if they're paid, it's going to be a fee just like the Eve. I'm not even going to say their whole name, but the other platforms that you go to have your events and tickets. Go to Afrotix, register right now. We're closing the divide. We have Norma Hollis. It's going to be fantastic. We have some wonderful sponsors that have been jumping in: AARP, JP Morgan Chase, Care First, American Classic Agent, Tedco, Comcast, and many, many more. Afrotix.live to register.
Yeah, .live. You said is it .live or .com?
It's .live. You know, I'm just .live. Okay, I'm talking but not reading. Okay, here we go. Right. I'm talking and not reading, but Afrotix.live. I know it was one of those things that you just said, hey, it doesn't sound right, but it does because it's a live event that's going to be happening. So Afrotix.live is our new platform, just launched this month for the Black Business Matters Expo. We have the mayor coming in. We got Norma coming in. We have the First Lady possibly stopping by of the governor's office. We have, I can't even name all the names. You are going to get an abundance of information that can help transform not only you personally, but your business. So if you think it's a shameless plug, it is not. This is the information. This is not the foolishness on the internet. This is the information. When the information comes through, I think the algorithm on these platforms, they say, let's not show it to any of your 600,000 people. I'm like, wait a minute. How come my people don't see this? Because some of the information they just don't want us to get. And I don't care about Facebook or any of them saying whatever they're going to say to you. But I need a platform out there that if I have 600,000 people, if I broadcast something, everybody should do it because you have all of my friends' information, but then you hold me back from getting information. That's another thing. I'm doing chicken box. You know what, Norma? I'm gonna respect your time. That was my chicken box moment. You know what I mean? I authentically had to say I'm sick and tired of us fooling around as a people when the information is presented to us that we can really change something. But yet we can just be so caught up in the foolishness of what's on the internet that we just spinning around and still don't know what we're supposed to be doing and then wonder why we all doing what we're doing. Anyway, I'm off the box.
So Norma, he's been authentically expressing himself.
That's right.
Without many people pulling back for a long time.
It's important.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
And Norma, she knew me before I was 2. So if you can put 2 and 2 together, you'll figure it out one really quick. Courtney, you on the box. Come on, I'm gonna save Norma for last because I know she said she has to get to another appointment.
I have 6 minutes.
Oh, 6 minutes. Okay. Norma, thank you so much for joining us today. I feel like you came with a lot of vital information, and I love your grid. I'm personally going to implement that into my life. And I like how you spoke on when you turn 28, you just realized like I have to go in a new direction, and I need like a new way of life. So thank you for sharing that personal journey that you went on. That's amazing. And yeah, thank you for everything that you do for the community and for just preaching about being authentic because we need more authenticity in society.
Thank you. And for the record, I've done that many times, totally change directions and just make a change because it just wasn't working right. So to be authentic and true to myself, I've had to do that several times. And so don't be afraid. And it has also meant leaving. I've left 2 husbands because of my need to do what I need to do. And I'm not saying for others to do that, but you will find relationships changing. And some people won't be able to go the whole journey with you. And then new people will come into your life. Some you'll keep, and some, they say people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And a lot of people just come for a reason or a season. And so look for the good in every relationship, learn from it, and then keep it in good rapport so you can always leave on good terms because you never know who may come back around in your life as well.
Oh, second time around. Better than the first time. Dr. Draper.
So again, thank you, Norma. You're right. Be true to yourself. I do want to give a shout out to our Black Business Matters sponsors: AARP, JP Morgan Chase, Care First, American Classic Agency, Tedco, Comcast, PNC. I'm saying it real fast. DC Small Business Development Center, United Way, Associated Black Charities, and Norma, you really have inspired me. I'm a person that multitasks a lot because that's who I authentically am. And the people come and say, I don't know how you do all of those things at one time. I had one great aunt that, I don't know, she said, I don't know how you do all that. I don't know why you do all that. And you try to explain it, but after a while you stop explaining it. So don't be surprised. You might see me talking to you about being a coach.
I'd love to. Yeah, let's have a conversation. Yeah.
Okay. You're on the box, Norma. You get the next few minutes.
Well, I just wanted a couple of things to kind of respond to what I remember of what Kevin asked me before I had took a little break. And I want to just mention that I refer to this as an energy management tool. And because what I have understood, when I finished this, I knew it represented me. And then I went to 20 cities in 18 months of people that were in my speaker bureau. I had a speaker bureau at the time. And you help them to use that to improve their speaking skills and their platform. And that's when I learned that when I saw how I saw myself, everyone else saw themselves the same way. And I know that I'm a multi-dimensional person, which means I have access to multi-dimensions within the world. I mentioned that there's 5 dimensions, we're moving to a 5-dimension world. And there's actually 13 dimensions, and we got a long way to go. So I have the ability to have that access. But what in reality is, if I'm multidimensional, and this represents me, and it represents everybody else that I've taught it to, then that means we're all multidimensional. But we just don't realize it. Life and society will put us in a box and tell that this is what you are. I have a webinar coming up on next week, Thursday, and it's about, I'm going to talk about my coaching programs, Dr. Draper. But it's called, Are You Who You Want to Be? Because we grow up being asked the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be? What do you want to be? But who asked you who you want to be? And what's really important is who you are, not what you are, because you change what you are many times. There are very few people who actually, by the time they're baby boomers, are still in a career related to what their degree is in, because we switch it in many, many ways. So we may leverage it and use it to grow on, but it changes. So second thing I want to give everybody is a tip for how you can connect with your inner voice more deeply. So that inner voice is in the intuition dimension. And you're given a sixth sense at the time of your birth, but we don't always use a sixth sense. And people will say things like, I don't talk to myself, but in reality you do. So the more effectively you can listen to yourself, the better you'll be able to follow the direction and your purpose. So if you want to do that, think about 3 questions you ask yourself every single day. Every day you ask yourself, what time is it? What am I going to wear? What am I going to eat? And you ask these questions often more than once. So see if you can figure out how the answer comes to you. How do you answer yourself when you say, what am I going to wear? What am I going to eat? Do you get a picture in your mind? Are you like a visual person? Do words come up? Do you sense it? Do you sense the answer? So the way that you answer that is the way that you determine that you extend and go deeper in your own inner voice.
Right.
So
And if you wear blue, black, brown, and green and yellow all together, sometimes you're not sensing it. You're just coming up. your sense is off on the color. Let me sense what I'm aware of. Flags and stripes and everything together. Anyway, no, I know you got to go. That was your alarm. We look forward to seeing you live in a couple weeks at the Black Business Matters
Expo.
Right.
I want to call it everything, but it's just a wealth of information. And if you haven't registered, share it with 10 people.
All right, I gotta go. Thank you.
Norma. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Stay authentic.
Share with 10 people. We're gonna wrap up real quick. Don't forget to smile at a person. We thank Norma. Don't forget to register at afrotix.live.
And let's slow down a little bit, Impeccable, because I said those so fast in the interest of time. We do appreciate one of the reasons that we can present this complimentary is not because it's not costing us anything in terms of monetary costs. It is costing us, but it's so important that we wanted to make it available to whomever would like to come. So please share far and wide. And we have some sponsors who are helping us to do that so that we can have our speakers and have the platform. I believe, Impeccable, we're using the Metaverse platform, and you may want to another time say something about that, but we want to give a shout out to our sponsors: Associated Black Charities, United Way, DC Small Business Development Center. If I forget anybody, help me out, Madam Producer. PNC Bank, Comcast, TEDCO, American Classic Agency, Care First, JP Morgan Chase, and AARP. So we want to thank them. So because, to build this out, to get these speakers, we're working on that. It's going to be a fantastic conference packed into a short amount of time. So register, it's free. Pass it on Afrotix, TIX.live.
Oh, yeah. Is that a mic drop? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a mic drop. I'm hoping people are registering for that. And yes, for those who know us, we are having our annual high tea on April 22nd. So when you go to Afrotix.live, you're going to see two events that we're sponsoring. That we're honoring the leading ladies of Maryland. It may be sold out, but if the button still works, you can purchase a ticket there as we recognize the First Lady of the state of Maryland, First Lady Dawn Moore, as we recognize Aruna Miller, who is our first Lieutenant Governor of color to be elected, as we recognize Adrian Jones, the first African-American Speaker of the House of Delegates of Maryland, and as we recognize Brooke Learman, the first elected in her own right female comptroller of the state of Maryland. All four of those ladies, as well as others, will be there. Last time I checked, we were almost sold out. But as I said, if the ticket button still works, you can get your ticket. That's not complimentary, but it's worth your investment.
Absolutely. I also want to thank Judge Wilbur. I want to thank The Way That I Love You. The Way That I Love You podcast, we'd like to know some more information about that. So if you could send a message on how we can get in touch with you, we'd like to maybe have you on the Chicken Box one day. And everybody else, Laura Phillips, anybody else who's tuning in who didn't say hello, Bonnie, Jewel, and everybody else who tunes in either live or watching it at a later time. Share it. Closing the Divide, Work, Wages, and Wealth. Thursday, that's right, the 27th of this month, it's happening. Afrotix.live. Go register. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you smiled today at least once. If you haven't, it's going to make you feel better. And call a senior. Don't text them. They are looking to hear from you. I say it every week, but I mean it. And if you don't have any in your family, call somebody else that you know who's been inspirational or made an impact in your life. And just show them a little love, everybody. So until next week, thank you, Karen, our producer. Thank everybody. Don't forget to check out Norma's Authenticity Grid. I love the grid. You know what I mean? The grid is just, you can just post that anywhere. Print it out, put it on your phone, take a peek at it, and don't be who they say you are. Be who God called you to be. Until next week, God willing, we will see you. Have a fantastic day and a wonderful weekend.